What's up, y'all? This is COUNTERRACISMNOW coming at you with another lesson in counter-racism science, brought to you from the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept textbook workbook for thought, speech, and action, authored by Neely Fuller Jr. Who am I? I am Dr. Khalif Abdul Muhammad. I have a PhD in being a victim of racism, white supremacy. If the system of white supremacy can say that one must study, I believe it is at least 12 years of college to become a PhD, then surely I, who have been a victim of racism, white supremacy for 47 years and have been studying it for the last 37 years, I most definitely have a PhD in being a victim of racism, white supremacy. Now that's how I've earned the title Dr. Khalif Muhammad, PhD. I'm also known as COUNTERRACISMNOW. So, what am I doing here today? With my lesson, coming at you with a lesson in counter-racism science, I am a counter-racist preacher. That is I'm a code preacher. I am a United Independent Compensatory Concept preacher. I'm here to share information with you and suggestions with you about the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. I am a follower of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. I'm not a follower of Neely Fuller Jr. Neely Fuller Jr. is not a leader of or for black people. And he'll tell you that himself. Neely Fuller Jr. is not Dr. Neely Fuller. Because he will tell you himself. Do not call him a doctor. He is Neely Fuller Jr. and he is the author of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. Let me give you a few quotes from Mr. Fuller. One that many people have heard. I've seen them say plenty of times, and they've murdered the whole saying. But here it is, directly from his book. If you could see that, the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. On the very first page, that is page A, Mr. Fuller says, if you do not understand white supremacy, racism, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. He said that in 1971. And one of his sayings that that I really like, that I think makes sense, and is what I'm about doing. It's what it is the because I'm also a investigator. I'm searching. I'm constantly studying and searching for information. And his saying says, the seeds of the destruction of racism, white supremacy are implanted in the very existence of racism itself. And he said that in 1978. Okay? So I'm an investigator. I'm looking for those seeds. I'm constantly looking for those seeds. if I could keep some of these niggers, is what I call them, you know, victims of racism, white supremacy, who are doing absolutely nothing constructive in the way of attempting to counter the system, but are always trying to get in my way. I'm constantly trying to minimize the conflict with them, and they constantly getting back in my face. And I'm trying to minimize the conflict, get them out the way, they constantly get back in my face. And one of the things that Mr. Fuller says is that the reason being is that all of us are so full of poison, we just can't stand each other. We cannot stand each other. We're always trying to look at each other and trying to tell each other what to do or whatever. But anyway, the way the code is set up, it's set up to make suggestions. Hey, you take the suggestion or you don't. That's the way the code is. There are no big I's and little U's. Someone that's going to ram something down your throat when you're practicing the code. At least they shouldn't be. Okay? We're united in the fact that we practice the code, but we're independent of one another in the ways that we practice it. That is, if you get this code book, and I'm doing this free advertising. I've been doing free advertising for Mr. Fuller since 2006 when I first got on YouTube. Okay, I was the only black person on YouTube promoting the code when I first got on here in 2006. I actually paved the way for all these other conscious brothers and sisters that are out here right now that are speaking about the code, including Mr. Tariq Nasheed, who is the subject of the lesson today. So I was looking around on the internet, doing my usual searching, and it popped up, said Tariq Nasheed on Micah Johnson, and then it says maximum emergency compensatory action. Okay, so you know, I had to click on that because maximum emergency compensatory action is a part of the United Independent Compensatory Code by Neely Fuller. It's a part of the code. It's in the code book. It's in the back of the book under the section called War, Counter War. If you don't know, there's 9 major areas of people activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Counter war. All right. So, the subject, of course, is what Tariq Nasheed said about maximum emergency compensatory action, which from this point I'm just going to refer to it as MECA. I'm going to call it MECA. Okay? Maximum emergency compensatory action. MECA. So, what I'm going to do is play the clip for you of Mr. Nasheed talking about MECA, and then we'll come back to me.
Now, in Dallas, and this is the thing that has thrown the white supremacists for a loop, you had a black man out here, that brother named Micah Johnson. That brother Micah Johnson. In Dallas, there was a protest, and there's a black man named Micah Johnson, who was a military dude. This guy, he engaged in what Neely Fuller wrote about going all the way back to the 80s. Micah Johnson engaged in something called maximum emergency compensatory action. I want y'all to understand that term. Michael Johnson, he engaged in what Neely Fuller talked about and called maximum emergency compensatory action. And let me describe what that is. That's a term y'all need to get familiar with. This is why I'm up on Neely Fuller. Let me break that down. He wrote about this. Actually, he wrote about it in the 70s. But his book came out in the 80s. In Maximum Emergency, his book is called The Independent Code Concept, The Independent Compensatory Code Concept. That's the name of his book that came out in the 80s. Okay, how come I'm not able to click it? Hold on. Fucking up, everybody. Hold on. Alright. Y'all bear with me for a second. But let me read what the Maximum Emergency Compensatory Action is. And Neely Fuller wrote about this in the 70s and 80s. This Micah Johnson, he did this to the letter. Maximum emergency compensatory action is the willful and deliberate elimination of one or more racists / white supremacists through death, and the willful and deliberate elimination of self through death by a victim of racism, acting alone according to a detailed plan and only acting after he or she has judged that he or she is no longer able to effectively promote justice except by eliminating one or more racists, as well as eliminating him or herself as a subject of the racist. And that's exactly what Micah Johnson did. He kind of knew he was going to martyr himself.
Here's why Mr. Tariq Nasheed is totally incorrect in when he says that what Micah Johnson did was MECA, that is Maximum Emergency Compensatory Action. I'm going to read it straight from the code book so you can hear it for yourself. Okay? Not reading off no internet web page or whatever. I don't know where Mr. Nasheed got his information from. You heard him call it the Independent Compensatory Code. He was incorrect with the title. It's called the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. Okay? And matter of fact, before we do that, let me read to you what United Independent means. I mean, there should be a whole lot more code practitioners out there, because I've sent these books out for free all over the country to people that said they couldn't afford to have one. Don't ask me for any more. I don't have any more. Mr. Fuller, he was selling them to me. I was buying them wholesale from him. There was some kind of business situation that happened between him and someone else, and so he's no longer selling them wholesale the last time I talked to him. But you can get them directly from him at producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. I'm giving a free plug to Mr. Fuller. I don't make any money or anything off the books like I used to when I was selling them myself. But this book is that important. It is the United Independent Compensatory Code, and it is for all non-white people who consider themselves victims of white supremacy. So let me read to you some facts about the code, the United Independent Compensatory Code. So on page 14 it says, the term United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept refers to the basic means through which the people of the known universe as individual persons think, speak, and or act in order to compensate for those things which they, as individual persons, judge to be missing, that they have judged to be of value. When pertinent to those people of the known universe who are the victims of racism, white supremacy, each of the words used in the term mean the following. The word united, as used here, means that the victims of racism who choose to be united are united in regards to their thoughts as to the need to resist and or eliminate racism, white supremacy. The word independent, as used here, means that each and every individual victim of racism is at all times, in all places, in all areas of activity, that is, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war, independent in regards to his or her choice of methods used to resist and or eliminate racism, white supremacy. This means that no person, white or non-white, has the just and correct authority to force and or command any victim of racism to adopt any means of speaking and or acting against racism, white supremacy, other than the means that the individual victim chooses for him or herself. The word compensatory, as used here, means to make up for that which is missing, namely the revelation of truth and the use of truth in such manner as to promote justice and correctness. Justice and correctness is missing among the people of the known universe because the people of the known universe are dominated by and or tolerant of the racist white supremacists. It is the racists who, in order to maintain the practice of racism, white supremacy, have produced the greatest and most effective system for promoting falsehood, non-justice, and incorrectness in the known universe. The word code, as used here, means that each individual victim of racism speaks and or acts to help eliminate racism by utilizing selections from a list of suggestions or from a combined list of suggestions designed to help an individual victim of racism accomplish that purpose. That's what this book is. It's a list of suggestions. The word system, as used here, means that each individual victim of racism speaks and or acts to help eliminate racism, white supremacy as an individual person according to that part of a pattern of certain forms of speech and or action suggested in a kind of listing code from which any or all victims of racism can pick and choose as they see fit. See, there's no leaders. No leaders. When many victims of racism pick and choose to speak and or act against racism from the same general pattern or code at a time and place of their choice as individuals, a system of speech and action becomes self-developing. The word concept, as used here, means that the entire united independent compensatory code system is no more than a concept or idea during any period when no person in the known universe is speaking and or acting to use truth in a manner that helps to produce justice and correctness. So, in sum, the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept means any number of individual persons who are victims of racism, who are in the process of thinking, speaking, and or acting effectively against racism, white supremacy, according to what they as individual persons pick and choose from a general code outline and or suggestion list for thought, speech, and or action that is especially designed for the purpose of helping an individual person to think, speak, and or act against racism. The code, outline, and or suggestion list must be designed and used for the purpose of not only eliminating racism, but to do so through the process of using truth in such manner as to simultaneously promote justice and or correctness. All speech and or action must be at a time and place and in the areas of activity of the individual victim's own choice. Okay, so there. Those are some facts about the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept that, once again, you can pick up at producejustice.com. All right, And then in the front page, in the book, on page, where's it at? The real unique and cool thing about it is that you can call Mr. Fuller and talk to him yourself. He places his number right on page B. His phone number is on page B of the code book. You can call him and talk to him directly. Okay, if you want to talk to him. And you know what? Let me throw my number out there. You can reach me through the Institute of Counter-Racism Science. That is my business. The white supremacy, the system of white supremacy is a business. Okay, racism, white supremacy is practiced like a business. It is not hate. It is not discrimination. It is not prejudice. Those three things are tools of racism, white supremacy. But racism, white supremacy is a business. And therefore, to counter it, countering racism must be a business as well. So my business is the Institute for Counter-Racism Science. And my phone number is 510-984-2472. That's 510-984-2472. You can reach me at that number, or you can send me an email at counterracismnow. That's counterracismnow@gmail.com. Counterracismnow, that's 2 R's, counter, and then the next word, racism now. Next word, now, at gmail.com. So once again, phone number 510-984-2472. If you want to send me a letter or write me, you can send your letter to 485 Santa Clara Street, number 1734, Vallejo, California, 94590. That's 485 Santa Clara Street, number 1734, Vallejo, California, 94590. Okay, so I am your counter-racist preacher. All right, so let's get down to Tariq Nasheed's incorrect statements about MECA. Okay, so the majority of the section of the 9th major area of people activity, which is war, in the code book, the majority of that is dedicated to explaining exactly what maximum emergency compensatory action is and exactly what it is not. So this is about what it is not. He read to you what it is, but I have to tell you, it does not match what Micah Johnson did, nor Christopher Dorner. I believe he mentioned Christopher Dorner later on in that clip. If you'll see the link, I have a link to that actual video where he speaks in the the description bottom of this video, so you can watch the whole thing. But later on, he mentions Christopher Dorner, and Christopher Dorner, what he did was not maximum emergency compensatory action either. It wasn't MECA either. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty here. So it says, oh, and also be on the lookout for an entire video about maximum emergency compensatory action, which will have all of the details in it, so you can know exactly what it is and what it isn't. But I'm just going to point out the reasons why it's not. So to do that, we'll go back to the part that Mr. Nasheed was reading. See, he was reading from, I think he was reading from the internet. He definitely was not reading from the book. And it was the question in here. I believe it's a question that asks, what? So it says here on page 217 of the United Independent Compensatory Code, it says, question, what is maximum emergency compensatory? Oh, let me say this too. Okay, Mr. Fuller originally, when he wrote it in the book, he called it maximum emergency compensatory justice. Okay, but after further thought, after he already had written the book, he gave it much more thought.
I used to call it justice, but I thought that was going a little too far by saying that you're actually producing justice. You don't know whether you are or not, but that's the step toward it.
So, you know, on the internet, you will find it. You may find some older writings of it where it says justice, but it's the proper term is action. And so I believe it's in the Word Guide, Mr. Fuller's second book, which is called the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept Word Guide. And I believe it's in there, and it's written like MECA, you know, maximum emergency compensatory action. The question is, what is maximum emergency compensatory action? Maximum emergency compensatory action is the willful and deliberate elimination of one or more racist white supremacists through death, and the willful and deliberate elimination of self through death by a victim of racism, non-white person. But it says the willful and deliberate elimination of self through death by a victim of racism, non-white person. Okay. And the only way a victim of racism can eliminate self through death is they have to do it themselves, right? They have to do it themselves. Can't be another victim of racism eliminating a victim of racism, because that's not the elimination of self. We got that, correct? Okay, good. I'm going to move on. Acting alone, acting according to a detailed plan, and acting only after he or she has judged that he or she can no longer endure the effects of racism, and or that he or she is no longer able to effectively promote justice except by eliminating one or more racists and by eliminating his or herself as a subject to the racists. Maximum emergency compensatory action is the swift, efficient, unannounced execution, elimination of one or more racist white supremacists by an individual victim of racism, acting openly and alone at a time and place of his or her own choosing, and after commencing such action immediately continues without respite or surrender until he or she is forced to eliminate self rather than be eliminated by others or be captured by others. Okay, there's a whole lot more here. A whole lot more. I mean, we're talking maximum emergency compensatory action is about, let me see here, I'm going to go to the contents. It's a whole lot more than what Mr. Tariq Nasheed read to you, of course, because he probably pulled it off the internet or someone just gave it to him. But in the code book, the section about maximum emergency compensatory action is from page 207 to 233. 207 to 233. So that's, what's that, 20-some pages? You know, my brain is a little slow right now. It's the end of the day. So let me just I'm gonna use a calculator. We just go 33 minus 7, right? That's 26 pages. 26 pages. And Mr. Nasheed just read you like a paragraph. Okay? So we cannot say that what Micah Johnson did was maximum emergency compensatory action if we don't go through everything that maximum emergency compensatory action is and is not. Okay? So I'm saying to you that Mr. Nasheed is incorrect. Micah Johnson nor Christopher Dorner, or the most recent victim of white supremacy that killed some police officers, Cosmo. He's on YouTube. He has a YouTube channel called Convos with Cosmo. That's convos, like conversations, with C-O-N-V-O-S, with Cosmo. Before he changed his name to Cosmo, he legally changed his name to Cosmo. Before he did that, his name was Gavin Long. So you'll find information out there under both. Neither those three or Omar Thornton, that's the victim of white supremacy that shot a bunch of white people on his job. I'll have a link to my to my blog, Counter Racism Now, speaking on Omar Thornton. I'll have a link about Christopher Dorner as well, because I wrote about both of them when those situations happened. So you'll see on my blog, Counter Racism Now. That's counterracismnow.com. And let's see. So Omar Thornton, nor Mark Essex. Mark Essex was a victim of white supremacy who I believe shot 10. He killed 10 police officers, I believe, in New Orleans. I think it was either 1973 or 74, but it was in the early 70s. He too was in the military at one time. He came out of the Navy and went into a hotel in New Orleans. Shot all these officers, and then they were chasing him or something, and he went into a hotel and got up to the top building with a sniper rifle and was shooting them with a sniper rifle. And Colin Ferguson was a victim of white supremacy, who's actually still breathing because he was captured. He walked onto a subway train in New York, I believe, and just started shooting white people. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 individuals, and there's probably more out there that we haven't even, who I haven't come across yet, who have done something similar, but none of them, do you understand me? Not one single one of them practiced MECA. None of them practiced maximum emergency compensatory action. Now, let me go back. We're going to go back to Micah Johnson real quick, and I'm going to show you why. Okay? So, it says here, where's it at? Go back to that part, the question. And by the way, I'm not for, I don't think that anybody should be killed for any reason. Okay? I don't believe in killing. I did learn how to do some stuff a long time ago or whatever when I was out in the streets, because that was my mentality back then. But I am totally changed. I'm a 100% changed individual, and I only believe in killing in self-defense. And I mean actual self-defense. Somebody's actually trying to take my life, or they're trying to take the life of a loved one. Those are the only times that I will kill, and that's only if it's the last resort. Let me just put that out there. So I don't agree with maximum emergency compensatory action, but it is in the code. Therefore, one must speak. A codified person such as myself, a preacher, I should preach about it and let you know what it is and what it is not. So where's that part? We're going to go back to that description again, because it's really key, and I read it to you earlier, but it's really key. And that key thing is the elimination of self. It says here, where's that part at? Here it is. So it says the willful and deliberate elimination of self. Okay, so let me read to you a report here about Micah Johnson. So basically, it says that so the police chief of Dallas, Chief David Brown, said that Micah Johnson basically lied to them, playing games, laughing at them, singing, asking how many officers did he get, and that he wanted to kill some more. Okay, that right there, I could tell you is not maximum emergency compensatory action, because a codified person, according to maximum emergency compensatory action, if you're practicing it, you recognize that there is nothing funny. There is nothing fun, nothing funny, nothing enjoyable about killing. Taking a life is a serious thing. You're talking about taking a person and removing them from the planet. And we understand that that is the behavior of a racist. We understand that a racist white supremacist will want to eliminate or remove you from the planet because they have no appreciation for who you are as a person. You are an individual person. Okay? There will never be one like you ever again on this planet. Now, so that right there is already shows that he was not practicing maximum emergency compensatory justice. Action. The other thing is that those who practice it, there is no talking and all of that kind of stuff. There's none of that. So I remember watching a clip where the chief was saying that Mr. Johnson was telling him that he wanted to kill white police officers. That he was telling them that. That's not a part of MECA either. And you'll see, because I'm going to do a whole clip on MECA, on what it is and what it isn't. But that's not maximum emergency compensatory action as well, because you don't tell anybody anything. If you're doing it, you're just doing it. You're not telling anybody anything. Any person that's putting it into practice. If you're not following exactly what it says in the code, You're not doing it. The person, if the people that you observe that are out there doing this kind of stuff, you see them doing this kind of stuff that they're doing, they're not doing it. They're not doing it. All those people I named are not practicing maximum emergency compensatory action. Just by what these 26 pages will tell you about what it is and what it is not. So let me get to the other part here. It says that they said that that Micah Johnson, they said that he saw the robot with the explosives coming at him, and he was trying to shoot it. He was trying to shoot the robot to keep it from getting close to him. So that alone right there already, that already takes out the part where it says the willful and deliberate elimination of self through death by a victim of racism. See, so that means that if he was practicing maximum emergency compensatory action, he would have took himself out. He would have took himself out. He wouldn't have been trying to stay breathing. He wouldn't have been trying to do that. So that's another reason why it's not maximum emergency compensatory action. And then here is one of the greatest reasons for why what he did was not maximum emergency compensatory action. It says on the same page, 217, do not discuss maximum emergency compensatory action except to describe what it is and or what it is not. Do not discuss any specific enactment of maximum emergency compensatory action, nor any act by anyone at any time that seemed to be an enactment of maximum emergency compensatory action. That's the greatest reason why what Micah Johnson did was not maximum emergency compensatory action. Here's the reason. The only person who is justified in calling a specific act of maximum emergency compensatory action by the title maximum emergency compensatory action is the person who enacts it. Since the person who enacts maximum emergency compensatory action will not have ceased to exist, will have ceased to exist as a part of the enactment, no other person is qualified, Tariq Nasheed, to make accurate statements as to whether maximum emergency compensatory action was enacted or was not enacted. Oh, well, that knocks me out too, huh? I guess I'm not qualified either. But I can tell you this. It says the willful and deliberate elimination of self. And just by him trying to destroy that robot or shoot that robot was showing that he wanted to look like he wanted to keep breathing. Okay, I'm suspecting. I don't know. Maybe he wanted to keep breathing so he could kill some more. I have no idea. But there's another thing in here. So let me finish this part. Okay. Whereas other persons can describe what they saw happen, it is incorrect for them to say that they know for certain that what they saw was an enactment of maximum emergency compensatory action. In answer to a specific question as to whether a specific act was or was not maximum emergency compensatory action, a person's remarks should always be, I don't know. There you go. Shut me up. I don't know. I don't know if it's maximum emergency compensatory action. And I guess really, I mean, he could have killed himself, and maybe the stories came out saying that he didn't. I have no idea because I wasn't there. So there we go. There's the truth. There's the truth. I wasn't there. Tariq Nasheed wasn't there. Nobody else was there except the enforcement officials and Micah Johnson. See, so only those people know what really happened. But I'm you know, of course I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that it was not maximum emergency compensatory action, just based on, you know, what I just read to you. But I don't know. Not all white people are racists, white supremacists, but all racist white supremacists are white people. Basically, you need to be sure that you're not, that the white person or racist white supremacist, not white person, but it has to be racist white, that they are actually racist. You want to be sure that the white person is actually a racist. And you know, I myself haven't figured that out yet. I don't see how that's even possible for a I mean, we're so confused about the system of white supremacy and what it is. I don't think that you know, only white people can tell you which ones are truly racist and which ones are not. I know many huge numbers of you are going to disagree with me, but that's based on my observation. So I can't find that part. So I'm done on what I'm saying here today. But be sure to look, you know, come back and check my channel for or subscribe to my channel, so that when I come out with the video that describes in full detail what maximum emergency compensatory action is and what it is not, you'll be able to have all the details. You'll be able to have the details. You know, maximum emergency compensatory action is the only part of the United Independent Compensatory Code that I disagree with, because I value life. I value all life. You know, I don't agree with just going out and taking people's existence away from them because of a difference in belief, or because someone else killed someone that looks like me. You know, to me, that's in cooperation with white supremacy. To me, I mean, I just want you to. And I'm not saying that you know, Micah Johnson did what he did. Gavin Long did what he did. Omar Thornton, Christopher Dorner, Mark Essex, Colin Ferguson, all those guys did what they did. Okay? Only they know why they did what they did. Only they know. So I can't talk against what they did. I cannot be for what they did. Okay? One thing that we can say is they all did what they did because of racism, white supremacy. That is a fact. The system of racism, white supremacy is the reason why they did what they did. And it's the same reason why so many enforcement officials are out there killing victims of racism, white supremacy. So guess what? We focus on removing the system. We focus on replacing the system of white supremacy with the system of justice. We won't have to worry about this stuff anymore. We won't have to deal with it. But we have to focus on that. And so as I said, me, I don't agree with killing anyone unless it's in self-defense. That's just me. Okay? So, those guys, I don't look at them as martyrs. You know, they are people who ended up in situations that caused them to do what they did. All of it needs to stop. All of the killing, all of it needs to stop. So I will leave you with one last thing. So I know that there's a bunch of critics out there of what it is that I have to say. So for you, I say the race problem has not been solved. The reason the race problem has not been solved is because the people who have the ability to solve it do not have the will. And the people who have the will to solve it do not have the ability. To that extent, where I am lacking in both the will and the ability to solve the race problem, I apologize. Please call me. I'll give you that number again. You want to call me? Call me at, pull that joker up for you, 510-984-2472. That's 510-984-2472. If you want to write me, you can write me at 485 Santa Clara Street, 1734, Vallejo, California, 94590. If you want to send me an email, it's counterracismnow@gmail.com. That's counterracismnow@gmail.com. Or you can find us on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook under SYN-Q. That's SYN-Q. Or you can find us under the Institute for Counter-Racism Science. All right? This is SYN-Q. Stay strong in your struggle to replace the system of racism, white supremacy with the system. With the system of justice.